Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to the first edition of the AJTRIP Show. This is a new podcast that I'm starting. I had a prior podcast called "The Word According to Me," where I would basically do the same thing I'm going to do on this podcast. I'm going to talk about things outside, um, outside the world of sports, anything that I felt topical that needed to be talked about or anything like that, right? Politics, dating, music, entertainment, whatever, right? I was going to talk about it here on the podcast, and and so that's what I was doing with the word according to me. However, I kind of wanted two things. One, I wanted my podcast to be able to be put up onto YouTube as well. Um, I wanted to do that, so um, that was a thing that happened. Um, and when I tried it, I had my sports podcast up there, the game according to me, which is also on a place where you find any of your podcasts. So if you like sports, you can go there to the game according to me. Um, but when I tried to do it with the word according to me, it wouldn't go up there. So I said, well, I kind of want my podcast to be on as many places as I can, including YouTube. So I decided to do that. Now, for any of those people who might be thinking, well, why don't you just like do the podcast for like the YouTube or anything like that, like do it like with a YouTube video, a video podcast? Well, it's one the main reason is because it's just me. I'm not talking with anybody or anything like that, so there's no reason to see us or anything like that. So, you know, any reason, it's just me. So there's no reason just to do a single podcast with me. That's just doing a YouTube video, which I do on my YouTube channel. By the way, youtube.com/@AJTrip20. You can make sure you can go there and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do a lot of wrestling things and um, reaction videos and try not to laugh or anything like that. So you can go there and find out and check those out. Um, but yeah, so I decided to go ahead and start a new podcast, AG Trip Show, and it's gonna be a new one. And I think what I've decided to do is that I am. This podcast is not gonna be like your normal podcast, where it's like it comes out like every week, or it comes out every 2 weeks or something like that. Something you may get from the other podcasts. Uh, at this point right now, it's going to come out whenever I feel like it. Whenever I have something to talk about, right? Whenever I have something to get off my chest or whatever comes to mind. That's when I'll do a podcast and it'll come out right then. So please, if you're listening to this, make sure that you follow this podcast and you know and like make sure if there's a way to get notifications about when I drop a podcast. If you like this one, make sure you do that, whether it's clicking a bell or signing up or whatever, so that when I do drop a podcast, you will get notified of it. And like I said, if I think I can get this onto YouTube, and if you come across this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Same thing. You're gonna get notified when I do any videos, anything like that, or when I talk about this. So that's gonna be a great thing. If for those of you guys who are who listen to this, and this is a new listen, or I think maybe I will maybe at some point one of the podcasts I will do is maybe a little bit about myself, just for those new to the who may be new to me. But if you've coming over from YouTube, or if you're, coming over from the Game According to Me podcast, and you're, listening to this one, you know about me, so, and we'll get to know each other a little bit more better. But for this first episode, if I would have thought about it, I think that's what I would have did with this first episode. I would have done the a get to know me type of podcast. And then I would have maybe went to episode 2, started this one. But I've already got it planned out, so we're just going to go ahead and go with it. So, I forget how I came across it, but, I came across this the topic of, should we be able to separate the person from the art? And again, like I said, I can't remember why this came up, but something was going on, and I think somebody was talking about something, and they couldn't, explain a thing or whatever. It might have been Diddy, right? Diddy has been charged with some heinous crimes. He is having all of these specials coming out where he's being exposed to being a very seemingly dastardly human being. And it's with all of this coming out, radio stations. I know there's one particularly here in Chicago. They've, like they're going above and beyond to like, when they try to play songs and like that, not to try to play anything with Diddy in it because of what's been going on with Diddy. And they already have a thing about R. Kelly where they don't play R. Kelly songs. So it's like, really, that's something that you're gonna do? You're not going to play songs that you like, that other people may like? You're really gonna do that because he could be a horrible human being? And listen, and people, they do this, right? They do this. I just mentioned R. Kelly. There's the whole thing. There was a whole mute R. Kelly thing going on when that was happening. People have been, when the whole Me Too thing was happening, there were things about, him where they were like, people would be exposed to Time's Up. Louis C.K. was, canceled, and apparently, and they wanted him to stop. Wanted people to stop, going to his shows, and wanted people to stop watching, his specials and anything like that. And that happened for a while, but he did come back. And it does seem to be like that. That something happened. Back in the day, there was a whole thing about someone. There was a girl, Leanne Tweeden. She was a Fox Sports girl, and she was very big back in the early to mid 2000s. And if she had talked about Al Franken, who was a senator, who had been a comedian in the past, who turned into a senator, and they went on like a USO tour, and I guess he said some things. I think he took a picture, while she was asleep, and he had, she very endowed, and he had like the hands doing it as if he was, touching her and everything like that. And he had to be, reprimanded from the Senate. He was, he lost the Senate seat. He retired from the Senate, and he had to do that. So there have been situations where people have done things that have been, sketchy to heinous, and people have, don't, they want them to not be able to, do anything, and not to have, make a living or whatever like that. And we saw this with Michael Vick. Michael Vick was arrested on gambling and dog fighting charges, and people didn't want him to come back to the NFL to play. And there are still morons out there today who still think that he shouldn't do like that. I think Michael Vick's not a coach of no Fork State, and I'm sure I didn't see anything really. Well, didn't go looking for it, but I'm pretty sure it was out there on Twitter and all the other things where they were upset that there were some people that probably were upset that Michael Vick got a coaching job where he's going to be coaching young men. But he's the perfect person to coach it, because he can relay onto the young men about the mistakes that he made and not to fall into those traps. I've always said that Michael Vick was a walking Dave Chappelle skit. He was the epitome of when keeping it real goes wrong. Now, if you've never seen the Chappelle Show, it was a show on Comedy Central that went for a few years. Very funny show. Very funny show. Maybe one of the funniest sketch shows that there's ever been. And Dave had a recurring skit when keeping it real goes wrong, and it was all those times where there would be these situations where someone would maybe step on your shoes, your new Jordans, and the thing was, the guy would say my bad, and the situation was you could say, okay, no problem, brother, I appreciate it, or doing the thing of keeping it real, being that now you're going to accost this man and you're going to say, no, fuck you, why are you stepping on my shoes? Back in my day, stuff like that did happen. When I was younger, when I was in middle school and high school, there were things like that. You got new schools. If someone stepped on, they would get after you. You say, oh, my bad, and then they try to get at you, like, why'd you step on my shoes? And they want to fight you for stepping on your new Jordans or your whatever new shoes you had. So that stuff happened back in the day. So that was the kind of skit. And obviously that was Michael Vick, because I truly believe Michael Vick, he didn't do a dog fighting ring because he really wanted to fight dogs, because his friends wanted to fight dogs. Now apparently what he did was he bankrolled the whole dog fighting ring with his money, because he was the $1 million athlete of all of his friends. And I think unfortunately he did put down some of the dogs when they lost the fight when they were badly hurt. I think he unfortunately put down some of the dogs as well, that's obviously not a great thing to do. Obviously. But I don't think he did that because he's some type of psychopath, or he's some type of horrible human being. I think he did it because he was trying to stay real with his friends. So his friends, that even though he's this new $100 million athlete, which at that time I think he was maybe the only one in football to have a $100 million contract, and he was a $100 million athlete and superstar football player, but he was still, that guy that you could, keep from the hood. He was still Michael Vick from the block, like Jennifer Lopez claimed that she was just still Jenny from the block. When she got been Jenny from the block for a long time. That's what Michael Vick was. Michael Vick was, she was trying to say that he was still Michael Vick from, whatever he lived in Virginia, and they caught up to him. But some people didn't think that once he did his time, that he shouldn't have been allowed back into the NFL. But he had a talent, and he went back. And good for him for doing so. And I think how this like goes back to like should we separate the person from the art? Getting back to things with like Diddy and R. Kelly and things like that, because that probably focuses more on them than it does Michael Vick. Michael Vick, which is he's playing football and things like that. Now I guess you could say that you could not watch a game. You could not watch a game that was Michael Vick. You could not watch. You wouldn't watch the NFL as long as they had Michael Vick playing in it. There was some of that. I mean, there was the numbskulls on both sides of the aisle. And the whole Kaepernick thing was saying that they're not going to watch the NFL because Kaepernick is taking a knee, and the other people, and then the other people like, well, we're not going to watch the NFL if they force Kaepernick to not take a knee, and you didn't. neither one didn't stop watching it because the NFL has been more popular than ever. So even if you did stop watching it, you came back. Why? Because it's the NFL and it's king. So yeah, I think you maybe crossed through there, but I was kind of more talking about like Diddy and R. Kelly. It's something like that in wrestling. I'm a huge wrestling fan. You will get to know that about me doing this podcast, I believe, or if you know it from my YouTube channel. I do talk about wrestling on my YouTube channel. I'm a big wrestling fan, and it's kind of like that with Chris Benoit. And if you don't know the name Chris Benoit was this talented wrestler. He was one of the best wrestlers there has ever been in professional wrestling. And he was talented. And he's had a lot of fantastic matches, a lot of fantastic things. And, but unfortunately in 2007, he took his wife's life. He took his young son's life, and he took his own life in a horrific, double murder suicide. And it's absolutely horrific what he did. And the WWE, rightfully, kind of rightfully so, maybe, they decided to not talk about Chris Benoit in no form or fashion. Now, honestly, I think they've decided not to talk about Chris Benoit because of what he did, the stuff that came down on WWE. Because there was once that happened, there was all this talk about things about CTE and concussions. They were talking about maybe steroids and roid rage and it was bringing a lot of negative press onto WWE. Do they really take care of their wrestlers, things like that? And I think the CEO, owner at that time, Vince McMahon, was really like, if this didn't bring up things about roid rage, or this didn't put a horrible light onto WWE and cause a lot of questions to be asked about how WWE does its things. If this was just a terrible tragedy that this man committed a double murder suicide, I think we would probably hear Chris Benoit's name a lot more because they haven't spoken his name at all since 2017. Because what had happened was when that happened, when they found out, right, when they found out that him and his family had passed away, they did a tribute show on Monday Night Raw. Tribute show to Chris, playing all of Chris's probably most favorite matches or anything like that, and they kind of did like a tribute show to Chris to honor Chris and his wife and the kid. And I guess during that show, more information started to come out about what actually went down, and what went from a horrific tragedy of this unknown horrific tragedy of finding this this man and this woman and this young kid, you know, died, started to turn into a fact of, well, no, what actually happened is that that man killed his wife, and killed his son, and then killed himself. And a lot of people were getting on. Another reason why they got on WWE is because they did that tribute show. And he was wondering, well, you did the tribute show to a man who did a double murder suicide. And then the next night on their show for ECW, Vince McMahon came out there and said that they wasn't going to speak about Chris Benoit again. He was never going to be brought up by WWE after that time. So and he hasn't. He's not supposed to win an award. Many people think that he should be put into the WWE Hall of Fame. I don't think that will ever happen. I think many people believe that they should, they should recognize some of the stuff that he's done for the world of wrestling, things like that. And you can do that without celebrating, other things. Because listen, there have been other people in the wrestling industry that have done horrible things as well, who they talked about. We can bring up the Bruiser Brody thing. They're being in Puerto Rico and being murdered, and I'm sure they put in the guy who owns the company who might have been a part of the murder, Carlos Cajon. So there's a lot of things, and nevertheless, for the stuff that the man has been accused of doing himself. So there's a lot of things, and a lot of people are saying, well, just because he did this, like even recently, Kurt Angle talked about, Chris Benoit, and saying that, the fact that they get rid of Kurt Angle believes some of his best matches, the best matches he's had, was with Chris Benoit, because they had great chemistry, and they saw wrestling exactly alike, and he feels that some of the great matches that he's had was with Chris Benoit, and without question, there's a match from the 2003 Royal Rumble, I believe, is it? Yeah, it's a 2003 Royal Rumble, where it's Kurt Angle defending the WWE Championship against Chris Benoit. And a fantastic match, a 5-star match, one of the best matches in Royal Rumble history. That wasn't a Royal Rumble match, and you don't bring it up because Benoit's in it. So things like that are like when like brings up the question: can you separate the art from the man? Whether it's wrestling with a wrestling and doing wrestling, or if it's someone like an actor. Kevin Spacey has been accused of doing some again heinous things in his career, but he's just wonderful. He's just apparently this great and wonderful actor. Are you not just supposed to watch some of the stuff that he's done because he's been accused of this? No, he's not been found guilty. He's not been charged with anything. He's just been accused of accusation. And Kevin Spacey claims because he's bisexual, I believe, maybe because he's bisexual. He likes both men and women. I believe that's what he is. He is bisexual. And these accusations are there to embarrass him and to make him, feel bad about being who he is, and because he was in the closet, he had not come out, even though there were obvious thoughts from folks that that's what his preference was, that he was either gay or bisexual. I believe he is married. Again, I say believe, but I should know, but I I do this. One thing is about these podcasts for these new people who are listening to this. I do these podcasts off the dome. I don't have any notes. I don't. Rarely. I don't have anything. I would have a topic, and maybe I have a couple of things here and there, to this so that if I need to talk about that I might forget because I am an older guy. Then I would have them like typed out on a note in a note thing or write down something like that. But otherwise, I do these off the dome, and that's why it's like pauses and misspeaks and everything like that because I want it to be authentic. I want it to be me. You know, I don't want this to be something where it's feels like it's just pasteurized or it's fake or anyway or it's AI generated or whatever. No, this is the real AJTRIP coming from you live and in living color. So all this stuff is off the dome. So when I'm saying I believe that he's bisexual or something like that, I know he came out of the closet for something, whether it was being gay or about being sexual, and I don't know. It's just because I don't know. I can't remember. But that's just who I am. And that's how these podcasts are gonna go. And that's how all my things are. Whether you see all the stuff on my YouTube channel, I do video essays on my YouTube channel, and again, whether it's talking about wrestling or anything else, they're gonna come off the dome for the most part. Again, I may have like some bullet notes or things written down or typed out somewhere like that, but otherwise, I'm just gonna free flow this bitch. So, um, anyway, yeah. So there's a lot of things like this. Are you because of the stuff that he's been accused of? Are you going to just stop watching Kevin Spacey movies? Who knows? So let me give you my thoughts on this because when I go back to R. Kelly, because this is the biggest one for me. Um, I am a big R. Kelly fan. To me, I think he is the greatest R&B artist of all time. Note that I said artist and not singer, because when you say singer, you could possibly talk about like the vocals, like someone who has the best voice and the best singing voice. And I don't obviously he could sing. I don't know if he has the best singing voice. But that's why I say R&B artist. He had a saying that he put on as a greatest hits album. Uh, the, he puts that I put the R in R&B or something like that, and I do think that he does. He's since 1992. You know, he's been making fantastic music, fantastic R&B music, and whether it's stuff that you make babies to, or whether it's stuff that you jam to, or whether it's stuff that you just get embroiled into. So that whether it's stuff that it's um, like the religious experience, or whether it's something that is just uplifting, you know, whatever it is, I think he's done a great job of it, and I think he's the best to ever do it. But obviously, because of the accusations of what he did with underage children and things like that, I was just say underage children, underage uh, girls, um, and then the stuff that came out about him, like being trafficking women and all those other things, and abusing women and things like that. There was a mute R. Kelly thing where, you know, they wanted radio stations to play music. I mean, I said earlier that there is one station, at least one station I know of here in Chicago, that doesn't play R. Kelly. They do games on their show where they play old school songs, and you're supposed to guess the song, and they don't play R. Kelly songs. They don't play songs that have R. Kelly as a feature, and like I was saying recently, they were even doing things where they were not trying to find songs that had Puff Daddy and P Diddy on them. you know. So, and to me, I find that ridiculous. I find that ridiculous. To me, I think you don't cut your nose off to spite my face, just to spite your face. You're gonna stop listening to R. Kelly music just because he's, this sex trafficker, apparently. Um, you're gonna stop listening to music by Diddy, music produced by Diddy, because he's apparently he's this this sex fiend type of human being. Are you really gonna do this? He's obviously, he is without question a woman abuser. We saw the tape of what he did to Cassie, so that's unquestionable. And the other stuff, a lot of evidence shows that that's true as well. But he hasn't been, you know, found guilty on those. So we say allegedly. That's another thing about me. I'm going to, I don't make opinions about, you know legal things like this or anything like that. It's always allegedly, and it's accusations. I don't, yeah, I don't pick sides. I don't say, well, you know, he, she's lying. He didn't do that, or he's a, he's been accused of this. He sucks. He's a human being. No, that's not the way I go down. So so it's a very weird thing, right? But I I don't think you should be doing that. That's just, and that is me. Now, maybe some people might say, well, shouldn't people have the right to do what they want to do? And I would say yes. I would say yes, but we know we don't live in that world. I, I personally have not come across anything yet, and maybe with this podcast, I might hear from some people, but um, I do think that when you are out there and you say, well, I listen to R. Kelly, you didn't tell me you're still listening to R. Kelly. You didn't mute R. Kelly. We see it now. We see it now with the political stuff, right? We didn't have the political stuff right now. Like if you know if you don't believe in one way to believe, then all of a sudden you're wrong, right? Like if you're okay with a trans person, you know, um, being trans, right, and giving them their pronouns that they want to go by, being he or she, right? But you don't think they should, um, they should um, be participating in women's sports, particularly men who transition to being women. You don't think that they should participate in women's sports because they were born a man and they have a genetic advantage over, you know, um, females who were not, who are not trans, who were biological females. Uh, but then you are transphobic. First of all, I'm not afraid of gays. I'm not afraid of trans people, so I'm not transphobic. And second of all, I'm not against the trans community in any way. I just am trying to use common sense. Life isn't fair. Fair is where you judge pigs. You know. So yes, they may want to live the life that they feel they need to be in the body that they would be, and that's perfectly fine. They can do that, but with that comes things that maybe you just can't do. Like you just can't. If you're Leah Thomas, the swimmer, you can't swim. You can't do the Olympics. Sorry. You know. You can't play. You know, in women's sports, you can't participate in women's sports. Sorry. That doesn't mean that you know it's that you don't deserve respect and anything like that. See, what gets me is just that you know the people on the right side of the aisle who they have this opinion and that's fine, but see they go overboard with it when they say, well, men shouldn't participate in women's sports. Well, she's not a man; she is a woman, and she is a woman. Uh, she was born a man, yes, but she is now a female, and she wants to be called a female. So call her a female. But you can, well, you can do that in a respectful, but while also saying, but she shouldn't be participating in but because she was born a male, she can't participate in female sports. That makes common sense, and that seems like a common sense thing to really have their opinion about. But then again, it's got to be, well, no, you got to be this way, or you're not a part of the crew. You're not an ally. And that's how I feel when it comes to like this, some of this stuff when it comes to like these separate the art for anything like that. That if God forbid you listen to P Daddy anymore, what type of human being are you to listen to P Daddy? Well, he's made some good music. I mean, do you not think that you know the "I'll Be Missing You" tribute to Biggie Smalls, is it still going to be played? You know, during funerals or during things when people pass away. It shouldn't be played. That there are other songs you can do. But that's maybe the best song, best tribute song to a fallen compadre out there. And if we could say, well, okay, I'm not. If we, the best thing would be if we could go and say, well, okay, if you want to support that, that's fine. I'm not, but I don't think nothing less of you. But we know that doesn't happen. You immediately think that that person is somehow worse than. And that's what's wrong with the country we live in right now. There's what's wrong with where it is right now. We think the worst of each other just because of how we look at the views that we have. And that's why we're in the shit place that we're in right now. So, yeah. For me, I think that ideally, I don't think that you should just automatically stop listening to someone's music, stop watching someone's music, stop watching someone's, wrestling matches, or stop watching a sport, or stop watching your favorite team or whatever because they've chosen to be aligned with someone who may not, you know, because there's some unscrupulousness going on, you know. I don't think that's the case. Um, However, if that is your choice, there's every right to choose them. But I don't think you should be going around chastising other people who don't have that choice and saying you're a bad person for listening to R. Kelly, for watching Chris Benoit matches, for rooting for Michael Vick in the NFL, and yada yada yada. Watching Kevin Spacey movies, watching movies produced by not Henry. What's the God, the guy, you should know, you can know the guy who's like he's in bad shape right now, things like that. But you know the guy I'm talking about. It's like that. He was like a big movie producer and things like that, and he went to jail for all the he was the one. I think he was the first. He was the one. All of the accusations was the start of the whole Me Too movement, I believe. So that guy. Yeah, I don't think you need to do that. You can. I also think it's very okay to pick and choose. If you're a big fan of, if you're a big fan of, you know, of R. Kelly, and you want to continue to listen to his music, but you wasn't that big of a fan of P. Diddy, so you're not gonna listen to any more of his music. I think that's totally fine as well. I would just say again, just don't get down on other people for doing, and admit to your contradictory, you know, maybe even hypocritical actions. But there you have it. I gotta be honest with you guys. I thought this was probably gonna be maybe about like a 15 to 20 minute, thing. We've gone, close to 40 minutes talking, talking about this thing. So, but again, I think that's a good thing. That means that we would have some good flow in the topics and things like that. This was a good topic and a very interesting topic, and I had a lot of thoughts and opinions about it. So. I think that's good because I think that's what, if you're listening to this thing, that's what you want. You want to listen to a podcast that gives you some thoughts and opinions and give you some interesting theories or something like that about that. So hopefully you did like this as the first episode. You know, and I appreciate you guys listening to this. This is so fun. Again, to recap, I have a YouTube channel at youtube.com/AJTRIP. YouTube channel. You can go there. I also have a gaming channel. I have a gaming channel on YouTube, AJTRIP Gaming. I have a Twitch channel. I have a Kick channel. I have a Discord. And that's probably the place where you can find all of my stuff. Is my Discord. You can, if you have content that you want to share, there's a self-promotion channel on there, but then there's also a place for where you can just get the stuff that I create. So this Discord, those links or those websites are going to be into the description box down below. Please take a look at that description box. Make sure that you go to each and every one of those links. You follow, you subscribe, you do whatever that they ask you to do to keep up with this and everything like that. So it's gonna be awesome. There are ways to support, but I actually think maybe I won't do that here on this first episode. When I get into the next episode, when I talk about more things, maybe I'll get more into the supporting nature of these of my content. So yeah, but thank you guys for listening to the first episode of the AJTRIP show. Um, this is now on Spotify. You can leave comments. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, leave comments about this, what you think about this first episode, what are your thoughts about the topic. If you're watching this on YouTube, obviously there's a comment section. Drop your comments in the comment section. And if you listen to this on other platforms, if they have comments or anything like that, you can link those as well. I don't know if I'll get links to things about what, if you post it, if I can see it or not, but do that as well. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is your boy, AJTRIP, signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.